Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I'd like to talk about 1.5 paragraph, starting the bottom of page 100, if you have this book. Let me read this paragraph. What is it that we think of as our self? Physically, this self originates in the union of sperm and egg and is brought to its present form through the combination of such factors as temperature, moisture, nutrition, and the like. And what is that makes up our mental life or personality? Here again, I have not chosen this self, but have simply received life in my mother's womb, unconsciously or ignorantly. I received the foundation of my personality, plus innumerable hereditary elements from my parents. Without realizing it, I was educated according to my particular society, era, and family, and I internalized my experiences within this environment. In this way, through the combination of an accidental set of factors, the views I now hold have been formed. So, our self is a random collection of elements and circumstances, and not some sort of lump, as it is usually understood. This self may become deluded, but as it is not a fixed entity, this delusion also breaks apart. The true reality of life is expressed in the Buddha's 12-fold chain of interdependence, insight into which is said to have been the source of his enlightenment. Until here. Original Japanese version, this is the end of the paragraph, and Okumura Roshi makes new paragraph from here. And I think it makes more sense, so I cut this paragraph into half. Anyway, here he is talking about the self. What is the self? Self in Japanese is jiko. Ji and ko both mean the self. And the first Okumura Roshi's book I read when I was 17 years old. The title of his book was Jiko. So this is one of the most important part of Okumura Roshi's teaching, at least to me. So here he's talking about what is Jiko, or the self. And he said this Jiko, as we usually, is a collection of all different elements, both our body and mind. That is same as the Buddha taught. This self is nothing other than the collection of 5 skandhas, 5 elements. In this case, the first one the rupa or form refer to our body, and the other four elements are our mind, the function of our mind. So basically what he's talking here is about how, the self, that is collection of five skandhas, are formed. And I think it's not difficult to understand what he's talking. Physically speaking, I received DNA from my parents, and this came through my ancestors from ancient times. And my family lived in the city of Osaka for 6 generations, and they are merchant. And as far as I know, there's no well-known person within my family tree. Nothing special, but there's no criminals neither. So not too good and not too bad. So it's kind of very ordinary family. And so my DNA I received from my parents are nothing special. I'm just an ordinary person. And after I was born, I was born 3 years after World War II ended. So the economical condition in Japan was very confused. And because in March 1945, my family had a property in the city of Osaka, but it was burned by bombing by American Air Force, so we lost everything. And so my father, he used to work for a bank, so that he couldn't live in the city. So he wanted to become a farmer. So he moved to countryside. And also, he got TB when he was in the army. So he thought he couldn't live in such almost hell. At that time, most of the city was burned, and people were actually starving. And probably that's why he wanted to move to countryside and become a farmer. But the land he got was not so good. So actually, when I was born, my family was very poor. But it was a very quiet place outside of Osaka. So we didn't. When I was born, when I was a baby, I didn't have so much nutrition. And also because of that, my mother could not, what do you call, give mother milk to me. So I was raised with a goat milk. And we didn't have enough, too much food. I don't know if that was good or bad. Probably it was good. So we didn't have anything sweet. So instead of candy, my parents said, as a snack, they fed us fried fish. Dried fish, small dried fish. So I had a lot of calcium instead of sugar. That was how I was raised as a baby. And I don't know why, but somehow physically I became so tall as a Japanese in my age. I was really exceptionally tall, and I don't know why. My sister and brothers are not so tall. So I didn't really understand, and I didn't like this body because when I was elementary school pupil, it was difficult to find a big enough shoes. So when I bought new shoes, I always had pain. So I didn't like my body at all. Anyway, that is how my body become like this. Now I'm 6 feet tall, and I became this height when I was 15. After that, I never get taller anymore. So it was very kind of a unusual body in Japan. So I didn't like this. And as a mentality, I'm still very shy. I didn't want to speak, especially in the public. So in the classroom, I was always quiet, and I was not good at socializing with other students, classmates. So I didn't like that neither. And also, as my mentality, I always want to be a kind of a good boy. And to be a good boy is not an easy life. To be a good boy means I didn't act directly through my like and dislike or my desire. But first I had to understand what is expected by other people. I still remember, when I think that was before I went to a kindergarten. One time I went to a barber with mother, and barber to cut the hair. And the barber kind of praised me because I was quiet and I didn't move while he was working on me. I was that kind of boy. And first I had to understand what other people expect from me. Then I tried to do it. And especially when I became the teenager, I felt, this is not an honest way of life. When I see other people seems honest to themselves, and they just do whatever they wanted. But I couldn't do such a thing, so I hate this mentality. So after I became a teenager, I intentionally tried to be a bad boy. But in a kind of unusual way. I didn't do anything bad. I mean, in the context of morality. But I questioned about everything. I didn't like what we studied at school when I was a high school student. So I questioned about everything to my teachers and parents. Why I had to study, why I had to go to the school. Then the common answer to from my parent or teachers is, if you don't study, you cannot go to the university. Then you cannot get a good job. Then you cannot make money. That's why you have to go to high school and study hard. But it didn't make any sense to me. So I asked Father, why we have to make money? Why we have to study, even science or other things? Why we have to study? What is better when we have more knowledge? Then, no one could answer. Why we have to, what is the meaning of life? What is really absolutely good thing? And no one really knew. So I started to study. What is the meaning of life by reading books. That's how I became a bad boy. I wanted to escape from that system. I called the money-making machine, and the school is a factory to produce the parts of that machine, and I didn't want to live in that way. So that's how I became a bad boy. I betrayed all the expectations from my parents or society. And in the process of searching the meaning of life, I encountered with this book, and that almost decided the rest of my life. Anyway, that is how my body and my mentality or personality is formed. Besides those elements I received physically from my parents and ancestors, and nature as air, water, nutrition, and the gift I received from the society, whether it's good or bad gift. Anyway, that is how I was formed, and now I'm a person like this. Those are all different elements I received in the process of my growth. And as someone said, this is like an onion. When we take each layers, nothing left. If we take what I received from my parents or society, or the knowledge I received from the teachers or the books, there's no such thing called me. So me, or this self, is simply the collection of those elements I received from the nature and the society. It's also like a car. When we disassemble the car, there are many different parts, and beside those parts, there's no such thing called a car. When we assemble those different elements or parts, and if there's electricity and gas, then car move or run. Any of those parts cannot move or run. So the collection of those different parts is different from each of the parts. Part cannot run, but when parts get together and function as one, it can run. So there's a difference. So the parts and the collection of the parts as one machine is, in a sense, different. But beside all those parts, there's no such thing called a car. And I think we are the same. There's no such thing called the Shōhaku beside the elements I, received from different people and society and nature. Still, all the parts of myself and me is kind of different. But somehow those parts get together and start to function as like a machine or car. Then I feel I am I. And I feel I am an individual. And I have my own way of thinking and will and way of doing things. So using those parts I received from the society and nature, somehow I create my life or myself. So in that sense, this self is collection of all the gift I received, and how can I say? And also, I do something. I work personally how to make this person or what this person should be. Then, because I encounter with this teaching, and I wanted to become his disciple, I made effort to study his teaching and practice and live in the way I was taught by my teacher. And I kind of create my life or myself. So this self is a kind of how can I say, combination of the gift and my personal effort that create this person. But even my ability of making effort is also a gift from the nature. So there, in a sense, there's no such thing called me. But from another side, this temporal collection of 5 skandhas are simply one with entire nature or entire network of interdependent origination. Anyway, that is how this self or our life become our life. And I think we can understand that. But often we don't understand. I understand this because I studied Buddhism. Anyway, so I don't think I need so much explanation, just read sentence by sentence. What is it that we think of as our self? Physically, this self originates in the union of sperm and egg and is brought to its present form, like my body, through the combination of such factors as temperature, moisture, nutrition, and the like. And what is it that makes up our mental life about the 4 aggregates? Mental life or personality. Here again, I have not chosen this self. When I was born, I had no possibility to make choice. Who should be my parents? And which society I wanted to be born in. And which part of the country or which language I should study. There's no choice. Somehow, when I was born as a child of certain parents, within certain condition of the society, and so on. So he said, received life in mother's womb unconsciously or ignorantly. This unconsciously or ignorantly is an important word in Buddhism. This unconsciously is a translation of Okumura Roshi's kind of a unique expression, that is wakaru mama. Wakaru means to understand, to know. Wakaranu means not understanding, without understanding. Mama means, what is mama? Just as it is. So when we are born, we didn't understand what is happening, what I could expect from this process of being born. We really know nothing because we didn't have the ability to know. And the word ignorantly is the Buddhist word, that is mumyo. So being born without understanding, which is called mumyo. Mumyo is a Chinese or Japanese for Sanskrit word avidya means lack of knowledge or lack of wisdom. And this is the first of the 12 links of causation. So what he's saying here, unconsciously or ignorantly, is a connection with what he's saying about the 12 links of causation. So the way we are born without knowing anything is in Buddhism called avidya, or lack of wisdom. So, this is the first cause of all sufferings. So, because we are born without understanding anything, our life becomes suffering. Because what he's talking here is, although we know nothing, but in the process of this education, depending upon where we are born and how we are educated, somehow we have a certain picture of the world and system of values created within this process of education. And we grasp this, and this is absolutely true. Even though the basis is without knowing, even though we don't know what is our life, still we think we know. And we try to do things based on my thinking, or my desire, or my expectation. Then my thought and the reality of all beings are different. So things don't work as we expected. That gap between what I think and what things are create the suffering. That is what mumyo or ignorance means. So in Buddhism, to see ignorance is important. To see ignorance is the way we become free from ignorance. When we see we don't know, then we become free from our understanding. And I think I know. That is what, in our practice, that is what we do in our zazen, that is opening with ungrasp of our understanding. That means we are released from this karmic view, karmic system of value, and just sit. So, what Okumura Roshi is saying is, first of all, we should see that we don't know. That is not only Okumura Roshi, but what Buddha taught. Our life is based on lack of wisdom or ignorance. That's why, and yet we live together with other people and things in the way I wanted. That is the source of, or the process of making our life into suffering. That is basically what Buddhist teaching of 12 links is teaching. So the important point is to see this ignorance. This seeing ignorance is the way we become free from ignorance. When we see, we don't know, then we, in a sense, we lose confidence as our personal view. But usually we have too much confidence. I'm right, I'm absolutely right, and everything against me, or everything different from my opinion is wrong. That is how we usually think. and that is a problem. So when we really see that we don't know, then we can become flexible about my grasping. We cannot completely become free from our karmic view. That is me. Without those layer of onion, there's no me. So all those things I received, and I experienced, and I learned, and I did, is me. So we cannot cancel, we cannot erase all of these, but we have to live with using this karmic consciousness and karmic way of viewing things. But when we are released from clinging to these karmic things, then we can be even a little bit flexible, and we find a space that we can be patient, even things didn't work, didn't go as I expected. I think this tiny space and a little flexibility makes a big difference in our life, I think. So, for example, when I'm searching the meaning of life, and I wanted to understand why or how this world was created, and human beings and other life was created. That was when I was 15 years old. That was first question I had about my life. And I thought, unless I understand why this world and we are created, there's no way to make correct or right choice. So first I wanted to know how this world and these human beings or this life is created. And the first place I went was Christian church when I was 15. And I read Bible, and I listened to the sermon by the ministers, and I found I couldn't become Christian. I couldn't believe, the myth of creation written in the Bible, in Japan, and we had another different myth of creation, and I knew there are some in China or in Japan, in India. So I couldn't understand why I had to believe only this version instead of Japanese, Chinese, or India. So I found I couldn't have faith in that kind of religion. So I started to, read, study the history, how human civilization began, and also the origin of life. So I studied science, life science, and also, I tried to understand the beginning of the universe. Of course, my world of my knowledge is only the tiny library of the high school, so I didn't study much. But at least I studied that we don't know. 50 years ago we didn't have so much knowledge as we have. Now we have pretty a lot of knowledge about how human civilization started, or even how the life began on this planet, and even how this universe started come into beings after the Big Bang. But when I was a high school student, there's no such knowledge was available at all. So what I understood from that kind of search was we don't know. But at that time, in Japan, at least in Japanese society, people thought they knew the truth. And communist and capitalist or left wing and right wings fought each other. So I couldn't, participate any of them. I couldn't trust any that kind of movement. And also in Japanese society, because of the economical growth, people working hard and making money, and to do so they destroy the nature. And I couldn't believe what they are doing in Japanese society was right. That's why I wanted to escape from that kind of, machine. When I was in such a condition, this kind of teaching from Okumura Roshi that we really don't know. And also, I read a poem by one of the most important Japanese Buddhist master, whose name was Kukai. Kukai was the founder of Japanese Shingon school. Shingon is a Japanese Vajrayana Buddhism. And in the introduction of one of his writings, this is a verse Kukai wrote. Of course, I read in Japanese, not in English, but I found English translation. But the deranged men, deranged? D-R-A-N-G-E-D, deranged men do not perceive their madness. The blind are unaware of their blindness. Born, reborn, and still born again. Whence they have come, they do not know. Dying, dying, and dying yet again. Where they go in the end, they do not know. So we don't really know where we came from and where we are going. Now we have some knowledge about how this universe started with Big Bang, but I'm pretty sure there was some cause and condition why and how Big Bang happened. But because we are within this system of time and space, we really don't, I don't think there's possibility we know before this time and space was formed. So we really don't know the beginning, and we don't know the end. To me, this don't know, we really don't know, is very important knowledge. And also, when I studied about Western philosophy, the first important Western philosopher was Socrates. And one time his friend asked oracle from the Delphi, and the oracle said Socrates is the most wisest person. But Socrates didn't think so. So he tried to meet and talk with all wise people in his age, and he found that all those people had a lot of knowledge about their expertise, but they didn't know much outside of their expertise. And he found only he knew that he didn't know. And that's why he was wiser than other wise people. When I read this story, I really liked Socrates. So to me, this kind of not knowing is really important wisdom that makes our life not too solid, but we can be more soft and flexible. that means that allow us to search more, deepen and broaden our knowledge and understanding. During the last Genzo, we studied Butsuko Joji, Shobo Genzo Butsuko Joji, always going beyond. I think that always going beyond is possible because we know we don't know. So to me, this is a really important part of Buddha's teaching. Anyway, so this unconsciously or ignorantly, I think is important word in this paragraph. Let me continue. I received the foundation of my personality, plus innumerable hereditary elements from my parents as a part of DNA. Without realizing it, I was educated according to my particular society. In the case of Okumura Roshi, he was born in certain condition. He was 36 years older than me. So his Japanese society, condition of Japanese society when he was born and when I was born are very different. And the way I was educated was very different from how he was educated because of the World War II. After World War II, Japanese education system was completely changed by MacArthur. So I was educated basically American way. So my basic understanding and knowledge are very different from Okumura Roshi's. So there is a very big kind of a generation gap, even between me and my parents. My parents, my father was 25 when war ended. That means after the war, he couldn't have any confidence about what he was taught when he was young, because Japanese society and system and even the idea of morality completely changed. So the generation of my parents couldn't, teach us because they didn't have confidence about what they should do. Of course, they had some confidence before the war, but after the war, all of the education they received was negated. So they had nothing to teach to us. That was, in a sense, good for us. But our life became very difficult because we are not taught in certain way, educated by certain way at home. We have to always question and search by ourselves. So it has a very positive and also negative effect to the people in my age. So we have to search what is the best way of life or meaning of life. As I said, when I was a teenager, only one thing all entire Japanese people, society agreed is we should work hard to make money. And if I didn't agree with, didn't like that way of life, then there's nothing. Besides, this kind of teaching, it was not so popular at that time. So this is the kind of a place I could escape from that machine. Here we are. So I was educated according to my particular society, era, and family, and I internalized my experiences within this environment. In this way, through the combination of an accidental set of factors, we received. And the views I now hold have been formed. So there's nothing, no absolutely, true or correct view. All are the kind of a collection of different elements. Next paragraph. So our self is a random collection of elements and circumstances, and not some sort of lump. Lump means something solid and fixed, as it is usually understood. But we always think, this is my opinion, and this must be really true. So losing confidence is a kind of a good thing. That means become flexible. This self may become deluded. So this is how our life becomes total delusion. But what he's saying here, and also Buddha taught, is this delusion is also formed by the different elements. That means we can deconstruct. So there's a possibility that we can be free from this ignorance, and the way we live based on this ignorance. I think that is what Buddha taught, and what Okumura Roshi is saying. This self may become deluded, but as it is not a fixed entity, this delusion also breaks apart. The true reality of life is expressed in the Buddha's 12-fold chain of interdependence, or 12 links of causation, insight into which is said to have been the source of his enlightenment. So to see ignorance, to discover this ignorance, is the first wisdom. And when we see we are deluded, we are still deluded. But because we know we are deluded, we are not completely deceived our delusion. We don't really believe in our delusion. That is really a relief, I think. Well, this is what I have to say this morning. Any question or comments? Please.
I'm trying to recall from my memory the paragraph that you read, and I'm trying to recall what you first said. And I thought the first time you read the paragraph, you used the word accidental, and then later in the paragraph, you talk about an accidental combination of component constituent parts. Am I right in that recollection? Was there the word accidental in both places?
Yeah, that was what this translation said, and that is, I think, accurate translation of Japanese word Okumura Roshi used.
I'm really concerned about accidental, because I think that's the key. And the issue, if you take your analogy of the component parts of an automobile, those parts don't come together by accident. They come together by design.
Yeah, in the case of machine, there's the designer and people who made the machine.
Yes. And so all of that has a life force behind it that says, I need a camshaft, I'll build a camshaft. You put the camshaft in the engine and it interacts with the valves and so forth. And so it's not an accident. it's there now. I've only read the book you recommended, What Buddha Taught Once, and it's at least a three or four read book. But my recollection of that, there's a passage in it that talks about active extinguishment of self, and it's just a brilliant treatment of the self thing. It's just magnificent. But it says that there is a continuation of life force, but then there's no footnote and there's no documentation of that. And so what I'm left with is how accidental is accidental, and what is a life force, and does it design the accident, and does the arahat really does then ultimately have the ability to make a choice for reincarnation, and how all that relates together. I'm making a statement and asking a question that's unanswerable, and I apologize for it, but I just don't get the accidental part.
Well, the meaning or reason which Roshi used this accidental is there's no absolute reason this should happen. Like, I wasn't, there's no reason I had to be born in Japan in 1948. That was kind of accident.
That's I have trouble. Maybe it's just a translation, but to me that's not an accident. That is merely another set of conditions.
Maybe this is a language problem.
I don't know. Oh, I think it's an intellectual problem. I just don't get it.
Could someone say something? Is this accidental?
Maybe it's random.
Random. This translation was used also random correction.
I want to say it's a philosophical problem. I mean, if we think about it, everything could be an accident, or everything could be intentional. Depends on which direction you come from.
Right. No, I think that's true.
So maybe the problem's thinking about it.
I think that's true.
Please.
I still want to respond to what we were just talking about.
Thank you.
If I value my sense of self, and I think we have a tendency to do that, we kind of cling to ourselves, then those elements of our experience that we think of as making up ourselves, like, for example, I was born in Georgia in 1955, that's, I feel, usually very important to who I am. Then, if I'm clinging to myself and clinging to these particular things that happen to me, then it is troubling to me to say those things were accidental or random. I want to resist that. I want to say, no, those were really important because they made me who I am today. And so I think it takes a lot of effort to let go of that and say, it could have been different. I could be different. I was different yesterday from what I'm like today. Tomorrow I will again be different. So for me, that kind of is at the root of this problem. And it is both a problem of language and also a philosophical problem.
I think to be accidental does not necessarily mean not important. I was born in certain time, in certain place, as a child of certain parent. That is a very decisive fact in my life. So it's important. But there's no reason I should be in that way. That is what accidental means. But accidental does not really mean it's not important.
There's another place in this book, Opening the Hand of Thought, where he talks about the circumstances of our life as being scenery. That seems to me to be related to this question. Is that help at all? Just scenery.
But in this case, scenery is, when Ucham Roshi uses for the scenery, within that scenery, he is included.
Yes.
So scenery is not something like on the screen and I'm observer. But within this person, this is the scenery. I think you are the first person.
I think one of the words that could have been used also in the discussion about how important it is where I was born, when I was born, is influential. Like those are influential, we could say pieces of data that determine who I am today, in the sense of my thoughts, my feelings, my opinions, my perspective. One of the I have so many questions. So I'd like to bring up the question that I had when I was rereading some of the texts, and it has to do with eternalism and nihilism. So here's my basic understanding. Eternalism means that the I has some aspect that goes on forever, and these components of thought and body sort of attach to it for this lifetime. After this lifetime, those things fall away, but something continues forward. Okay. Nihilism, as I understand it, is that what I call myself is not unlike the flame of the candle. When that flame, when the wick is gone, when the wax is gone, when the oxygen is gone, there is no more flame. That flame is completely dependent on these conditions.
Yeah.
No conditions, no self. Okay. So that makes so much sense to me. Help me understand why the Buddha would say, no, not that.
I think what Buddha taught is, causality. Causality.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's when this five skandhas is dispersed, nothing continues, then what we do has no result. This is a negation of causality, and this negation of causality is a big effect in Indian society as a basis of morality or ethics. If we say there's no continuation, then we can do whatever we want.
Okay, so what
then
about
the end of our life is the end of everything.
Right.
That is another wrong view according to Buddha.
Because there's causation from this life that matters in the next life? So are we talking about karma here?
Yeah. So, according to the Buddhist teaching or philosophy, this continuation without Atman.
Without Atman.
Yeah, is possible.
Yeah.
That is what Buddha or Buddhist wanted to say.
Okay.
So there should be continuation, and yet there's no such thing called Atman.
Okay.
Then what is continuous?
Yeah.
Is a very good question.
Yeah.
And many Buddhist masters or philosophers try to explain how it's possible, continuation without a fixed entity. And there are many theories.
May I just tie what you just said back into our earlier discussion? Could it be that what continues actually is what determines where you're born, when you're born, the conditions that you're born with? So in that sense, it's not accidental.
Within causality.
Yeah.
because of certain cause, we are here.
Yeah.
Yes. So Buddha or Buddhism does negate causality or continuation.
Does or does not?
Does not negate causality or continuation. But how can we understand continuation with something fixed that continue forever?
Without something
Without something fixed.
Yeah.
And I think we can understand that, even though my 5 skandhas, dispersed.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing will have some influence to the future, or what we did at this moment within this nature, whether we destroy the nature or protect the nature, affect the next generation. So in that sense, even this Atman doesn't exist, then but there's a continuation. But at least in Indian society at the time of Buddha, if Buddha negate the causality and also reborn, that destroy the foundation of Indian morality. Because people believed we should do good things to be born in a good places in the next life. If Buddha negate that idea, then for Indian people, that is negation of morality, I think.
And so you're saying the Buddha did not actually negate continuation or causality?
No, that's what middle way means.
Okay, nice. Got it.
Okay, please.
My teacher from Rome once compared merit to virtue. And virtue is what all the Socratic dialogues start with. What is virtue? What is accumulated merit? Nobody really answered that satisfactorily. The closest answer that you get in the Socratic dialogue is that the accumulation of virtue creates a propensity towards good action. And so my question is, with the negation of morality in Indian society, why, I would think we do not have the negation of morality in Buddhism either because of the middle way, and that those choices have to carry over in some kind of accumulation of merit or virtue that does in fact influence the random nature of causation. If it's not, accidents probably just not quite right, but it is still influenced, and in a sense it is determined by the morality of your present actions that continues even past life. That doesn't extinguish with the decomposition of the 5 standards. And so there has to be some element of morality that does continue, that is accumulated karmic consequence.
I think that's why Buddha didn't negate the continuation against the extinctionism.
That's such a relief. That's 2 years of study right there.
That's good. Please.
Well, Hoto-san, I was just wondering, the bad boy was against institutions and questioning institutions. How did he then enter into very formal institutions and even become a priest?
You ask about me? I don't know. I wanted to live like my teacher, and I became his disciple, and somehow I was registered to Japanese Soto school. I did, I was not interested in that part at all, but somehow my teacher did, so I couldn't say no.
So you were a good boy after all.
Yeah, in a sense. In a sense, I have been living as my teacher expected me. So I was failed. I failed to be a bad boy. Please.
Ojo-san, a very practical but quite difficult, at least for me, question. In Italy, but in USA as well, we have a lot of discussion about abortion. Abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main point of discussion is if the fetus must be considered a human being or not, or at what time a fetus should be considered a human being. I know that Buddhism has not a kind of right answer about this, but do you have a kind of your opinion?
Well, I think the basic question is when we become human beings and when we stop to be a human beings, when we are dying. In Japan, it's kind of interesting. Abortion was not a big question, but brain death was a really big question.
What?
Brain death.
Okay.
Until recently, the definition of death in Japan, in Japanese society, is heart stopped. I had no reaction toward the stimulation, and heart stopped. And there's another, breathing, of course. So until the heart stopped moving, the person is alive. So when a doctor did first heart transplanting, he was sued as a criminal because it's against the law. Until his heart stopped, the person is still alive. So the question was when we stop being human. That was when I was a university student, so about 40, 50 years ago. And in Japan, they changed the law. So now heart transplanting is legal, but still not many Japanese people want to transplant. So, I think the basic problem, can we determine when we become human beings and when we stop being human beings? As a reality, I think this is not a certain fixed moment we become human beings, but this is a process. And dying is also a process. But as a law, we have to, need to certain point. From this point, this baby in mother's womb is human beings. So if we kill that, then that is a murder. And when we need to define when we stop being human beings, before this person stop being human beings, if that heart is moved, then that is a murder. So it's a really difficult question. Can we make such a definition or not? It's a, I think, deeper question. So to have such a technology is cause the very difficult problem for us. We have to, think and deal with. And I have no answer about this. But kind of interesting in Buddhism, in Christianity, abortion is really a big problem. But in Buddhism, abortion is a problem, but not so, people didn't so much argument. but about brain death, they did. So I'm sorry, but I have no answer to your question.
Me neither.
Okay, well, it's already 11:30. Okay, thank you.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it.
Just a few announcements. Rohat's session starts next Sunday, a week from today,
Yes.
in the evening. November 30th, I guess is when it ends. and it goes on until the following Sunday in the morning. And I think anybody's welcome to come and sit, and there's still room for somebody to come and do the entire thing, I'm guessing. How many people do we have so far?
I think 5 people made the registration.
Okay. I haven't made mine yet, but I'm coming.
Yeah, please make registration if you see.
And we have a practice committee meeting tomorrow evening.
Yeah. Because the session start Sunday evening, next Sunday we won't have we not have the morning zazen and dharma talk.
And the holidays, so Thursday.
Yeah, Thanksgiving Day, Zendo closed. That is 27. Friday.
Right.
But the next day, Friday, it is open?
Yeah.
Is that right?
You don't need to come.
Are there other announcements? Anything I'm forgetting? Okay.
Work period?
Oh yeah, we have tea. We're having tea and a work period. I hear it's supposed to start raining, but I'm planning on a work period. So, any volunteers for work, please come. Show up around 1 o'clock. That's around the time I'll start. Other announcements? This temple runs on our generosity, so please give as you can.